everybody. Thank you for coming to our panel discussion today. These are the people from Native Roots, and they're here to answer your questions about the dispensary. They're going to tell you who they are and what their specialty is, and anything you want to ask, you're free to ask after they've done that. And this is Kim.
Hi, I just wanted to start off with an explanation of who Native Roots is. As a company, we are one of the largest cannabis companies in the U.S. and in North America. At this point in time, we are one of the only U.S. dispensaries that has been granted a license to operate in Canada. And we have 20 retail stores here in Colorado, so a very exciting time for this particular company. We are a vertically integrated company, so that means we handle everything from the seed to sale is the way we call it, growing it, producing the products, transporting them to our retail locations for both medical and adult recreational dispensaries. So we have experts here from each of those categories. I'm just going to have them introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about what they do, so that you will know if you have a question who to direct it to. Andrew?
I'm Andrew Hash, and I'm the Cultivation Sciences Manager. What that means is that when there's a question that has to do with the biology of the plant or the things that disrupt the growth of the plant, such as pathogens, I'm the one that goes in and tries to figure out what's going on. We also do all the manufacture of the nutrients that we use, and yeah, that's about it.
Hi guys, my name is Adam Cole. I'm the Learning and Development Specialist for Native Roots, and that is a giant mouthful. Hey Katie, what's up? That is a giant mouthful for I'm heavily involved in all new hire onboarding, also educational partnerships at Native Roots, as well as continuing education, and that's in all things from compliance through the science.
I am Sarah Larson. I'm the Associate Director of Retail Operations for Native Roots, so I oversee our district management team and all of our locations in Colorado.
Hi, my name is Shannon Fender. I'm the Director of Public Affairs for Native Roots. I manage our government relations at the local, state, federal, and international level, as well as community relations and strategic communications. So anything that really involves the public side of the company and how we engage with the community is in my purview, as well as how we represent ourselves and how we advance politics and policy for the company. Been with the company for about 2 years and have a great team here, so very excited to be here today. Thank you all so much for coming.
Hi, I'm Kristen Hill. I'm the Director of Native Roots, so I oversee all of the manufacturing in both the extraction laboratory as well as the commercial kitchens. So that's any products that are an edible, an oil, a vape, a dab. Those are all the products that fall out of my department.
Hi, I'm Brandon Ray. I'm the Production Compliance Officer, so I deal with anything basically from seed till it gets to the store. So flour, pre-rolls, concentrates, things like that. So it's the cultivation, post-harvest, and the med facility that Kristen referenced. So we just make sure we're following all the rules that are, you can see the big book out there that we have to flip through.
So I think we're just going to open it up for questions, right? So if you guys have any questions, you can just shout it out and we'll answer based on who has the knowledge in that field.
What are the most common questions asked of bud tenders by new customers?
There's so many. I would say the top three. Primarily today, what is the best for pain? I would say that's always going to be one. A lot of people have questions regarding what are the regulations around use, where can I utilize the product, and how can I use it to stay legal. And then we see quite a few folks from out of state of Colorado, so a lot of questions about, how do I get this back to my state, to be perfectly honest, which we then have to be very specific about how we answer those questions. So I'd say first, symptom relief. Second, any regulation questions, and then third, can I take this home, or how can I get this in my home?
Do they, pardon me, just a quick follow-up.
Yeah.
Do they say something like, I've got arthritis, or I've got headaches, or
Sure.
I need a lot of energy for such, but what do you have that's good for blank?
Absolutely. Primarily folks are coming in asking about specific symptoms or specific ailments. And I think Maureen in the back has a really great talk that some of us have attended. There's been a bulletin that's come down from the Med that actually speaks to our ability to talk about symptom relief. So that is something we cannot really speak to patients about without being in high risk. So we try to keep it on the self if we're talking about symptom relief. I have felt this or I have seen this in my own use, but I'm not a medical professional, so it's really kind of based in that, making sure we can set those expectations for our customers. Yeah,
Maybe it's a
keep 'em
relevant
coming.
question.
No, it's wonderful,
There are so
thank
many,
you.
you know, it was just about 2 or 3 years ago, you walk into any retail, adult use or med, and there were a lot of stoner type of packaging. That changed significantly. Now it's artistic, it's creative, it's beautiful. But if I had never walked into a dispensary before, I wouldn't know, WTF. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have any clue as to what would be good for me. So I would ask a bud tender, who is probably the most dangerous person to ask any medical question. Recreation, no problem.
Sure.
So what about, what are your comments in general then about all this attractive names and packaging that thoroughly confuses anyone?
Sure. So I'll break your question apart. The first one was sort of how do we speak to people who come in and have no idea of what we carry? Is that sort of what you're wondering and match with a product? So again, in learning and development, I can turn this over to Adam. In orientation, we have a pretty robust program for our team based around how they talk about product before they even get into a store and how they meet patients or customers where they are. Medical bud tenders are going to have a lot more experience, and in a lot of our hybrid stores, you can't be a medical bud tender unless you're a manager. So we do take great care with patients, make sure people can see the same people over and over again. On the medical side, it's very important. But we can't speak directly to the medical benefits of cannabis because we're not medical professionals. So again, just really setting that expectation for folks to talk to their physician about any type of treatment they're looking to go through. And then we go through the product categories, of which we carry quite a few that are more kind of medicinal. And then, we carry joints and buds and gummies and fun things that are more recreational. So it's really exploring with the patient what they came in for, and we have a whole process on how a bud tender does that with talking points. And then matching them with the best thing, but also setting clear expectations, because it's super important. These products impact everybody differently, so we take great care in that. Try to make sure everyone has a good experience. Do you want to say anything else there?
Yeah, and just a quick follow-up and a little bit specifically on how we do encourage our bud tenders to engage in these styles of conversations. Just because we aren't in that space where we can be giving any sort of formal provision of medical advice. Coming back to we aren't medical professionals. And really to echo Sarah, one of the biggest tools in our arsenal is that cannabis is known to affect every single person differently. So we try to really stay far away from definitive promises. Nobody wants to be in the business of selling snake's oil and say, well, this is going to do this for you, or this will provide this bit of relief. Only for that person to go home, try out the product, and have nothing near that experience and really be thinking super negatively about that interaction. So may and might are two of the best words that we use for folks, and relying on your own experiences, that's something that we're absolutely able to share, and we also can share experiences of our other customers, patients, colleagues, peers, and say that, I've had several conversations with some folks just disclosing similar symptoms to what you're disclosing right now, and they've had some success using products XYZ. So maybe let's start here, get this in your hands, and let us know how it works for you the next time you're in the shop. If it works well, fantastic, let's move forward. If it doesn't work, please let us know that. We can go back to the drawing board together. And that's a little bit of how we engage in the conversations.
I apologize for maybe my question was too long and complex. My question is, with all the different packaging, the different brands, the different claims, how does anybody know what to pick?
Sure. So there's no medical claims on any of the packaging. However, you make a great point. We carry at our centers right now, I think 56 SKUs, so 56 different individual MIP products. In Colorado, I'd say there's over 1,000 MIP companies, so marijuana-infused product companies. So we carry a selection that we personally feel is the highest quality. Every dispensary has the option to sort of order whatever they would like. So again, when a new patient comes in or a customer, it's exploring with them, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a tincture? Are you looking for flower? Are you looking to inhale? Are you looking to ingest? What do you know about the product? What's your background in education? And then we really work with them to match them with something we feel might be best for them and their experience. And it can be a pretty lengthy process. I mean, we can spend, up to an hour with any given customer and patient just talking them through the product lines. So to answer your question, it's hard for an outside consumer to know what we carry until you go in, and we're always happy to walk people through every brand and every product.
And one little addition to that, we do have a ton of SKUs on our shelves. We've got X amount of vendors and X amount of different products, but one way that we really help the customer and patient coming through and when we're having these conversations is to really box them into separate categories. What are we inhaling versus ingesting versus using as a sublingual or utilizing as a transdermal or topical product? And your onset and your duration are going to be varying across all different methods of consumption. Same with the bioavailability of each of these methods. So one way is that we can actually educate at least to the method of consumption, and then based on onset and duration, that helps our customers and patients kind of guide their own decisions in that space. And saw a hand here.
Yeah. How long is your onboarding and training process?
Great question. So I'd like to start with the idea that onboarding is more than just orientation. So onboarding is actually the first 90 days of a new hire's employment, really for any organization, not just Native Roots. So our orientation itself is a 2 to 3 day process depending on what role you'll be entering in with the company. And then onboarding after that, it's a massive hybrid of on-the-job training. We leverage a learning management system called Spoke, which is a platform with a lot of educational information that's available to all of our staff's fingertips, whether they're in the workplace or at home. So really, the training period is a full 90 days. We are pretty robust on the front end in orientation itself, and then that training and learning continues through that first 90 days.
So for bud tenders, say you're going in as a bud tender,
Sure.
how long would the training process be, and is there a lot of product education in that process, or is that all done through the learning management system?
Excellent question. So one of our partners, they are Trained to Tend, and the overarching umbrella to that organization is Klein and Bundle. So if you're familiar with TIPS, it's kind of like a Serve Safe certification for the alcohol industry. So Native Roots, we believe that there's going to be a mandated certification for the cannabis industry, kind of a similar.
Responsible vendor training.
Exactly, and we've done that across our entire retail space in our organization. So that when the state does decide to say, hey, this is now a mandate, we're going to be very proud to be able to say, hey, we've got our entire retail base already responsible vendor certified. So that's one of our partners on the very front end, and that will be a bud tender's very first day. It's about a 4-hour-long online module that they'll go in and it will discuss everything from the space of local regulations and compliance to positive and negative effects that cannabis might be bringing to the table, and then also how to engage with customers. So it goes into a little bit of sales process as well. Now that's their very first day. Then they'll come in and spend another day with Native Roots where they get introduced to in-house policies, all things compliance, on top of what they learned the day prior with Trained to Tend. So we're already reinforcing things that they learned on that very first day. And it's this day where they're going to get a lot of exposure to all of our third-party vendor products. And that's where they get this information and education on, here's your 4 primary methods of consumption, here's their onset and duration scopes, and here's the bioavailability under each of these mechanisms. Yeah.
I get nervous and I am going to ask questions because I think that you're going to be like, what is that question? Don't ask me that. But this is my question. I have heard so much about the over 21 and recreational part, right? Why it has to be over 21 to be a recreational use?
That's a great question. I'm going to pass that to Shannon.
Yes, and thank you so much for the question. The 21-year-old age is in line with the alcohol industries. That's when you become an adult and are able to legally purchase and consume. That age is also, I believe, really looking at statistics around the development of the brain and the ability to use substances. And there are some discrepancies, I think, among the medical community about what that age actually is. But really, we're just aligning with the alcohol industry that, as a 21-year-old, you're considered an adult that can make that choice.
Now, I have visited many different dispensaries, and I happen to notice that their advertisement, it has their logos. Okay, that's beautiful, but I don't understand is why when you go into your website it come up is over 21, but when you go to your stores and at the front, it says over 21. So I wonder, these t-shirts, these other swags that it's being given or sold to the customers, it has your name in it. And now these items are taken to the houses, and who lives in their houses? Their sons, and there is more like 50% within that same household, and you are advertising your name, your logo tag, you're advertising to that new generation that in the future it will be a customer of you, right? But what happens if they are right now in their 9 years old, and by the time when they turn 15, they're curious about why my mom wears this or uses this, I wanted to try. How can you, by using it, can go and tell your kid not to do it?
Yeah, and I'll take a shot at answering that question, and I appreciate it. It's one that we get a lot, and really what we have tried to do as a company in terms of partnering with organizations that are developing messaging to adults around use. And we want to be very thoughtful about the fact that there are parents that take home, whether it's product or whether they buy a shirt that has our logo on it, but really looking at just the best practices from the alcohol and tobacco industries, where it's really about the parents' responsibility and trusted adults' responsibility to have those conversations about, this is an adult drink, this is an adult product, this is something that it is your responsibility as the adult to have those conversations with your children and make sure that they know that it's something that is really just for adult use. In terms of the advertising, we're very, very restricted in how we can advertise. We certainly do have products like t-shirts that we can put our logo on, but we are not able to advertise in the industry anywhere that there's going to be an audience that's under 21, that's going to has to be, what is it, 70%? 70% of the audience has to be 21 or older if we're going to be advertising, so that's why you don't see, very rarely, and we're pretty conservative in our approach as a company in terms of where we actually do go out and advertise. There are some companies that are a little bit more liberal than that, and not only do they open themselves up to compliance violations, which could threaten their license, but we just don't think that that's a best practice. We don't want to be advertising to an under 21 population. It's just not in the best interest of us as a company and for the communities.
Can I please suggest?
Sure.
Because I've been reading a lot of this information, and I have my kids. There is one who's 9 years old, and the other one is 6, and I care about them. I smoke, yes I do, and I have other kids too in my life that they ask me the question, why can I do it? So because of that is why I bring this idea to have that logotype, that relationship from now, to have the logotype of the cannabis leaf, because the cannabis leaf is everywhere. I'm sorry, I have seen kids of not younger than my kid wearing hats with the leaf, and I was wondering if they have that, they're thinking, this is right at any age. This is right, I can do it. And if they're not going to be allowed to buy it in stores, they will have a different way to get it, right? So I think I want to help them. I mean, maybe it's just a little way, but I think this will help them anyhow. Because the kids are visual people, and they tend to learn visualize. So without having that really discussing or have that interaction between father and mother and parents and kids, don't do it because you're not over it. I think that the message of over 21 is starting to make that relationship in the cognitive mind of those kids that live in their houses, in the houses of the customers' houses.
Sure.
And I've been going around NCIA and Cultivated Energy, and now in these institutions trying to get, yes, these t-shirts and your store. So that way, we can start getting that information to these people, to the kids. Because like I said, your customers are going home. And these customers have kids, have nephews, have however. And it's how going to the really heart of the houses of all the people that it's a wrong house. That's what I wanted to hear.
Sure, no, and I appreciate that, and we'll definitely take that under advisement. Looks like Brandon wanted to add something as well.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly point out that some of the regulatory agencies do put out some resources. I saw one the other day. It's like a mock game show for kids where they kind of guess questions about marijuana, THC and stuff like that. And it's a good way to kind of engage them in the conversation because, things like alcohol have been along in the culture for a long time. And kids, you have to get used to seeing that as like it's for adults. It's not something I can just go grab and drink because, a bottle of vodka might look like a bottle of water to them. So you have to have those conversations. And I think that's just one of the struggles is this is still kind of being accepted in the wider community, especially recreational and medicinal product, that parents have to start getting more informed and have those conversations. But Denver Health, CDPHE, the MED, they put out some great resources, and there's some great statistics and kind of guides they can use, like little handouts and things, just to kind of help you guide that conversation the right way. Because yeah, it's a new topic. They're going to see the pot leaf and everything everywhere, and you want to be the one to have that conversation with them, not just whatever is out there, kind of being the one that informs them.
And then again, all those are very good, and it's good that all those resources are there. And like I said, because I have this, you should look up. I have.
You like them? They have resources, they have PDFs for you
I
to talk
have.
to your children, to talk about it in schools.
Yes, but then again, what I'm trying to say is that I wanted to have this included in the package. That's my basis. My basis is that all what is created until now is good. Yes, thank you for having that. But I'm just trying to have this included in the educational part.
And we greatly appreciate that. Looks like there were several other questions back in the back there. Okay, yes, sir.
So this is directed to Adam. I'm a cannabis clinician who's dealt with so many patients who come back for their card that I've never seen before that give me the story about I went into the store and I just talked to the bud tender and et cetera. And you were talking about some of your training. And I understand you're sort of training about the product. What's the training component that you have about THC, CBD, their interactions, ratios, et cetera? Because when I have so many come in and say, oh yeah, I tried an edible and they just didn't like it at all, and I said, what was in it? It's like, well, I don't know, So how do you go about treating, if you do?
Sure, and let me just make sure I'm understanding the question appropriately, but kind of just in terms of dosing recommendations, or?
Yes, sort of the dosing recommendations,
Sure.
Kind of the medical part of it, because you say, well, we can give anecdotal information about I have migraines, I
Sure.
do this or that, but
So-
I understand you have constraints as far
Yeah.
as what you can say, but that doesn't mean I have background here information that tells me sort of what kind of dosing migraines would work for migraines.
Sure. So in the space of ingestible products, we are in alignment with the state. And the state defines a single serving as cannabis as 10 milligrams of activated THC. So when we have that brand new customer or patient coming in through the door, if they have zero experience with commercial grade edibles, they fall into that brand new user. And the cookie or the brownie that their friend made back in college 20 years ago that either worked way too well or didn't work at all gives them really no baseline. So we consider that person to have zero experience with commercial grade edibles. And we'll always start them at 10 milligrams or even under. And it can take up to 4 hours for you to reach that peak effect from an ingestible. So one of the tragedies in the space of edibles is that somebody might eat a 10 milligram gummy. And now we're 45 minutes in and the gummy hasn't necessarily hit yet. But my sweet tooth is also engaged because I just ate a delicious watermelon gummy. We really try to educate heavily on make sure you wait that full 3 to 4 hours before you ingest another piece because technically you haven't gotten to that peak effect. And as for THC and CBD specific education, we refer to a lot of PubMed studies with respect to how or what type of properties these molecules have exhibited in the space of animal studies. So we do communicate to our staff, THC has exhibited anti-inflammatory properties. It has exhibited analgesic properties, appetite stimulant properties. Granted, we don't have clinical trials going on for humans, so a lot of this is based on research done on mice. But same thing for CBD, which has quite the laundry list more extensive of potential therapeutic benefit that it brings to the table. We talk about CBD acting as a negative allosteric modulator in terms of kind of changing the shape of your CB1 molecules, so it takes away from the binding affinity of THC to your CB1 receptors, and that's a way that it can maybe, if you feel like you've overdone it or overconsumed a little too much THC, that CBD maybe can step in and take away from some of that negative side effect. So we keep it general for the most part, as we can't promise to one individual person, but there are facts about these molecules that we can discuss. We just can't promise that fact onto somebody else.
Do you provide them with resources like the healer.com, the realmofcaring.us, etc., to the new users to say you might want to go get some more information off of the internet?
Yeah, and if you've been by our booth, we actually give every person, specifically new users, we have an educational card that directs them to a lot of different great information, but specifically touches on those dosing pieces. Start low, go slow. I mean, that is something that we say probably 100 times a day at our dispensaries, because we know what a bad experience looks like. So we want to make sure everybody has a great experience. It's our opportunity to do that. And then for the medicinal properties of the plant and the different things that we carry, we have a lot of wonderful vendors we work with that support us in testimonials and all kinds of great detail about our ratio products. And we carry everything from 20 to 1, 5 to 1, a lot of different CBD products. So we rely on our vendors to give us some great information, and we try to pass that on to our patients and our customers. And then on the medical side, usually we're working with a doctor like Joe Cohen, or for Healthy Choices Unlimited, where that patient comes in knowing the product that they may be looking to buy or a specific ratio, and our role is to help them to get that.
I think we had a question from this gal here and then this gentleman in the back.
Oh,
Did you had your hand up? I think you both did.
would you like to go first? You go right ahead. I'll be all right.
What can you tell us about Native Roots Wellness that's coming?
Nice.
So we are going to be opening up Native Roots Wellness on October 29th. It is a CBD store. It's going to be what was previously our Champa Street location, so it's in downtown Denver on Champa and 16th Street. It's going to be a wellness experience, and we're bringing in a lot of amazing vendors. We're also looking in phase 2 to serve different types of CBD products, like CBD coffee. And what we love about this opportunity is it's really going to give people an option to actually try CBD product in this store as a really great kind of first way. Like, here's a cannabinoid that you can try, and a lot of folks are really nervous about THC and coming into dispensaries. So we're looking to educate folks. So it's an opportunity for that.
So follow up to that, you're going to be focusing on hemp products then, because you
Exactly.
won't be able to use it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Any other points on that?
But you've got a bunch back here, probably is the next gentleman.
When you're dealing with parents, we're in a medical state where we're at, and so we have parents coming in trying to figure out what's best for their child that's maybe got ADHD or epilepsy or any barrage of things. How do you talk them through that without stepping over that line of giving them advice?
So in Colorado, we legally can't talk to them about anything for their child unless their child is a medical patient in Colorado. So we have a lot of really serious restrictions relating to that, and we do our best to keep to those. So it's a really difficult situation. We see this a lot of parents coming from different states, asking for help for products for their kids. It's unfortunately just a no-fly zone for us, an operation under the regulations that we have. It's not something that we can discuss.
What about a resident, like if you were dealing with a medical
Sure.
patient who lived in Colorado, how would you guide
Sure.
them through that?
And we do. I mean, 3 years ago, I had a 16-year-old with severe ADHD who would come in with his mom, who was a medical patient. It's still a very tricky situation when you're talking about adolescents, and I think there were some really good panels yesterday that spoke specifically to that in cannabis treatment in adolescents. Our recommendation would be CBD only, and then to work with a physician on what kind of other treatment plans.
Go ahead.
The restrictions that you have in medical advice on the THC side, are those going to be extended to your CBD wellness store? Or will you be able to have more freedom with medical advice at your CBD store?
So we are in the process of kind of understanding this world. It's a little new to us. We're used to a highly regulated environment, so we're kind of excited. But our understanding is no. I mean, we can speak about these things fairly openly. And we can even allow 18-year-olds into the store to learn about them as well. So it's this really new kind of space for us, and we're doing our best to learn everything we can so that we do it right.
Yes?
I was wondering, where do you see the industry, and specifically your brand in 3 years?
Industry in 3 years. Go for it.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm going to answer from more of the political, regulatory. Native Roots is a founding member of the Cannabis Trade Federation, which is focusing on lobbying efforts in Washington, D.C. I sit on a board that has worked with Senator Cory Gardner, who's a Republican here in Colorado, on getting the STATES Act introduced, which is descheduling marijuana in medical or adult use states that have opted in. We are hopeful that that bill will pass in the next Congress. It does have very strong bipartisan support, and because it is dealing not with full federal legalization, but just with federalism and the ability for states to really regulate themselves and police themselves in terms of what they're comfortable with, whether that's medical only low THC products or whether it's a Colorado model where you have full legalization. I think that we're very hopeful to see that pass Congress and to really, with all the things that we have challenges with, banking, taxes, that bill would provide for that. So in terms of, you said, I think 3 years, I think that is likely to happen, or at least we're hopeful that it will happen. I don't think that we're probably in the spot of looking at full federal legalization for a while still, but you have seen a massive shift, even among the conservative audiences in terms of medical marijuana. And so as you start to have that happen and the conversation around, well, what is the next step from medical, it's, adult use, that we're really just seeing a massive expansion of the way that people think about cannabis as both, healing properties and recreation.
And then I guess I'll just speak to, yes. As far as the brand of Native Roots, our CEO has gone on record saying that it is our goal to expand in the United States. We are looking at different states that are legalizing use in both the medical and the adult use areas. As I said before, we are going to be operating in Canada. However, we will be under a different brand name because we do have partners in Canada. Our brand in Canada is Garden Variety. Our brand here is Native Roots. But it is our intention to continue to expand our business model to include other states. So, from a company perspective. Yes, the gentleman in the back.
How do you plan on exceeding that goal with the community in the States? How is your brand going to reach out? Are you going to reach out to the other advocates and put something together to get more people to lobby in Washington? Or how do you guys plan on doing that movement?
Well, I think you're asking kind of two parts to a question. And the first part may be how Native Roots is planning to expand versus how, from a political perspective, and I'll let Shannon discuss that again, but from a Native Roots brand perspective, as states have expanded their application process, as they are legalizing, as they are going through the regulatory process, they open up an application process, in which case a company can apply to follow all of the rules and regulations as they are set forth by that particular state or municipality. And a company needs to apply, as we did in Canada. We applied in the province of Manitoba, and we were one of 4 companies who were awarded a license. So that would be how we would expand within the United States, would be identifying states in which we would file an application and to move forward.
So have you done that in the state of Oklahoma since we legalized it?
Oklahoma is certainly moving forward. We do not have a specific target list at this point in time. We are exploring business opportunities as they arise, and will continue to do so. We are excited to see what the future holds for the industry as well as for Native Roots and garden variety.
So is that vision for corporate locations or licensed across the U.S.?
That would be licensed across the U.S. At this point in time, we still believe we are a Colorado-based company, and our corporate headquarters are located in Denver. For the foreseeable future, we do not see that changing for Native Roots. There will be offices available in Canada that will operate the garden variety corporate structure.
Yes, thank you. And actually, Oklahoma is a great example of really the normalization, not from the public health perspective, normalization, but really just the general population of the country. If you can get Oklahoma to accept medical, and really they did not have a very super strong proactive side. They did have opposition, and so that's a great example. Oklahoma's regulations are very, very loose, and so we did consider going into Oklahoma, but I think that we're waiting to see kind of how things end up shaping out. There's a lot to be determined about how licensing is going to go there. To answer your question, I think about the lobbying efforts is yes, we are very active in lobbying. Myself personally and a couple other members on our teams. The Cannabis Trade Federation is the predominant lobbying organization that got the States Act introduced, and so we're working with other organizations like NCIA, like MPP, to really make sure that everyone is on the same page in terms of advancing those policies.
Are there any more questions? Okay. Oh, there's a question.
Are you guys still going to try to rename Sports Authority Field?
We love that breed.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it? I believe that while it was an honest to goodness offer at the time, at this point in time, the NFL has not been particularly welcoming of that idea. Let's put it that way. So I do not see the sign going up as Native Roots Mile High just yet.
Just not today.
Not today.
Blame the Republicans.
Thank you all so much.
And we'll be, the whole panel will be outside, so if you have other questions or think of something, please come find us and we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for your information.